You're listening to That's My Story. On this podcast, we talk about individuals' life experiences. All these experiences develop into your life story. Not everyone's story plays out the same, and I've always been fascinated to hear life stories. These are the stories that shape us as human beings and what make us individuals. And I would like to hear the moments in life that made you, you. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to That's My Story. I'm your host, George Lugo, and today we have a very special guest, Mr. Tom Bruno from the USUK Podcast Network on What's the Difference, right? It's the main one you do with Alex.
Heck yeah, that's the one. That's the flagship show. That is the technically Thorskin is what starts it all, but it leads to What's the Difference, which leads to USUK, and now we are here today. Yeah, it's a good time. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, thanks for being on, man. Thanks for being on. I really love this. So let's go over some basic info, so we can get the listeners to understand a little bit more about you. So, Mr. Tom Bruno, where are you currently staying?
I am currently staying in Newport, Vermont, right at the tippy top of Vermont, one of the littler states, and I'm on the Canadian border.
Oh, nice. So that's why you love Super Troopers so much.
It is. Well, I mean, like, I like it because there's so little movies that are like, there's like The River Runs North, that's a Vermont flick. There's Me, Myself, and Irene, that's a Vermont flick. And then there's fucking Super Troopers. And they mention Vermont once in Clerks. And I'm like, yeah, Vermont, you heard it. You heard them say it. They acknowledge we exist.
I mean, we'll probably come back to Super Troopers, but
the Vermont movie that was not filmed in Vermont. Yeah.
So let's talk about you have kids, right? How many kids do you have?
Oh God, I got 3. I like to. Are we allowed to swear on this thing?
You can swear as fucking much as you want.
I like to fuck, bro. I like to fuck, and I have a really weak pull-out game. It's not a good combination.
I love the honesty there.
Yeah, I got 3, a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 6-year-old.
Oh man, at least they're all pretty close in age. That's
yeah. Well, I like to think about it this way. Like, a lot of my friends, like, they'll have a kid, they'll wait a couple of years, have a kid, wait a couple of years, and then they'll have like 2 or 3. I'm like, dude, do you do your math right? Because you're gonna be like 50 by the time they're all adults and stuff. And like, doesn't that sound like a long time to wait? Like, this way, me and my wife, we're still going to be fairly attractive, by the time that our kids are all 18, and whether or not they live here is up to them. But like, I will still be able to have a life. And that sounds kind of selfish, I guess. But, having kids is a dedication. Making sure that you raise like proper human beings is a dedication. And at one point, you either got to decide to step up your game and be a good parent, or you can just continue being whoever you want to be, which is, I'm not going to judge you for it. But at some point, me and the wife are like, all right, let's get these kids raised up. Let's do it the right way. And when we're all done, we're still going to have 50 years left to live. So let's do it early. And that's what we did, I guess. And they were also, all 3 of them were like, oops. So that also came into play for the math.
No, that's all good, man. We planned out our first and our second, but the second one was like, I don't know what was going on, but like it took like 6 years or 4 years, I'm sorry, for that to actually come to fruition,
Really?
Like, even though we were healthy, like we got checked regularly, and the doctors didn't know what was up. They're just like, we don't know. Like, you're healthy, but like we don't know what the hell the problem was. Well, we were chalking it down to possible stress. I was stressed out for a few years there, so that could have been it.
Oh, 100%. That comes into play. And maybe it's just because like I was smoking tremendous amounts of cannabis, and I was just like, yeah, man, fucking things happen. For a while there, like, it looked like if I looked at my wife cross-eyed, I'd get her knocked up. Like, I'd just be across the room. I'd be like, hey, how you doing? She's like, great. Now I'm fucking pregnant, asshole. Good job. That's just kind of how it happened. Funny story. I was on my way to, since you like stories, I was on my way to go get my vasectomy done after my second kid. I was like, girl, boy, done. We solved the equation of life. We did this. And my wife used to have really bad asthma. She still has some asthma, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. I actually believe it's in correlation with how many what are those fucking things? ADHD medications they had. I don't know if it was just doing something in there, but once she stopped taking those the ADHD medications, we self-medicate now with, you know, like a little bit more natural things. She hasn't had like seriously bad asthma. It's like around pollen season, it might get like not great, but it's not shutting her down like it did when I first met her.
Mm.
So I was going on my way to work. My wife's like, yo, I'm having a really bad asthma attack. We need to go to the hospital. I needed a steroid and stuff. I was like, all right. And I just barely started this fucking job. I wasn't looking to not be there and to call out so early into it, but I was like, fuck it. You know, you're important to me. So let's do this. We go to the hospital, and a little background to that is my wife, she's very sensitive about her body in the sense of like, if something's going on with it, she's the first to know. Clearly it's her body. So it would not be unheard of for her to be like, I think I'm pregnant, and then for her not to be pregnant. You know, shit happens, you know, especially after you have a couple kids, you get very tuned into that whole scene.
Mhm.
So we go to the hospital, and she's like, hey, before you give me that steroid, because you're not allowed to take steroids when you're pregnant, she's like, will you give me a pregnancy test? I wait for the nurse to leave, and I'm like, dude, why are you doing this? Like, why? You're not fucking pregnant. Stop. Just stop. And the nurse comes back, and she's like, yeah, congratulations, you are pregnant. And I'm like, oops. But of course, like, there's been like only one other serious time where I seriously was doubting Thomas, hey, for my wife, and that was when she broke her tailbone. Because like my wife's family, they are the people that if you have a cold, you're dying. So like she'd be in bed, she'd be like, I'm dying, and I'd be like, I think you just have a cold. Nope, dying, Tom. I'm dead. I'm on my deathbed. Call a priest. And I'll be like, yeah, okay. So one day she was carrying our kid down the stairs, and she slipped on the stair, and everything was okay. No kid was dropped. She fell right on her ass. And she's like, I think I broke my tailbone. And I'm like, yeah, you broke your tailbone. Yep, that's what happened to you. And she was like, no, seriously, I think I broke my tailbone. I was like, sure. Well, she goes to the hospital, comes back with a fucking x-ray, and she's like, I broke my fucking tailbone. I was like,
You called it, honey.
yeah, good job. You're 2 for 2 now. Congratulations.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I still hear back to this day. Fucking,
We'll
I
never
think,
hear the end of that.
I think I got something serious. I don't think so. Remember the tailbone? Yeah, you got smallpox. I get it.
Awesome. I know like you're a really big fan of music, man. So what is your favorite genre of music?
Ooh, I like a little bit of everything. There's certain things I don't listen to all the time. Like I like a little bit of country here and there. And it all goes back to nostalgia, right? Like I'll listen to things based off of how I felt at the time I heard them. And there's some like, you know, essentials that you should listen to. But generally, like if I was to hop in the car right now, the CDs that I still listen to is like I have Thriller in my car. I
Shit.
have Queen's Greatest Hits. I have Chronicles by CCR, Eminem, Rage Against the Machine, Offspring, Sublime, Rob Zombie. So it's very ranged. I listen to a lot of stuff.
I love everything that you just said right now, and I want to go on a very long car ride with you.
I love car rides, dude. They are like they're one of those like crucial American passages or pastimes, excuse me, that we kind of like earn. Like you get a license, and the first thing you want to do is go and drive. So that develops into the love of going for long car rides, especially in like, you know, rural Vermont where you got to drive long distances to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And of course, I also believe that stems from like 1950s teenagers getting in their hot rods, going down to the beach, what have you. And of course, like as we said earlier, I'm partnered with a gentleman from the UK where road trips are not a thing. Like they don't find that enjoyable. But people like you and me, George, we like throw the music on, this blare it. Let's fucking get there when we get there.
Fuck yeah. I'm all about that.
Dude, it's such a good time.
I told TS when he was on here, like, you know, because I drive for a living, and I was like, it actually was a blessing for me to get a job driving because I love to drive. That's the best part of the job, you know, because I told him like when I turned like what was I 16, I think when I got my license, and then yeah, that's all I did was I jumped in my car and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go that direction. I don't know where it goes. I'm gonna go that way until I figure it out and then come home.
Mm.
Yeah.
Spirit adventure.
Yep.
It's really embedded into our DNA, especially as Americans, which is excellent. And I've always wanted a driving job. Now that you mentioned it, that was always something I wanted to do. But the problem is, like the greatest driving jobs are like long haul truckers, and that would if I was to retire tomorrow, that's what I'd want to do. Like that's one of those things I do want to do. Is once like the kids are all grown up, they're all out of school and all that stuff. I want to earn money by being long haul truckers. That way I can bring the wife with me and fucking just be like, hey, let's go see some shit.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet.
Dude, and they get paid really well. And there's lot lizards everywhere. So I'm just like, hey, man.
Looking for them lot lizards.
You leave lot lizards. Fucking, I watched a lot of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I know how this works.
That's some funny shit.
Mm.
So, what is let's keep going with a little bit more of this basic info. Favorite foods.
You got like an hour. I got like a lot of them. Okay, I like almost everything, and the fact that background on this, when I first got me and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, got our first apartment. I was not a great cook. Like, I could cook food to feed myself and feed her, but it wasn't what I would call good food. It was you know, it would, you know,
Sustenance.
yes, it was sustenance. Thank you very much. I just barely woke up. This is things that George knows that nobody else knows. It was sustenance, and we could, you know, survive from eating these things. But there's only so many times you can have like boxed mashed potatoes and be like, delicious. I can taste the separated dry particles and this shit. So we started watching Hell's Kitchen.
Ooh.
And just the passion that George that Ramsay had for fucking Gordon Ramsay. I almost said George Ramsay. The passion that George Ramsay across the computer for me has for cooking is just, you know, the passion he has for cooking really kind of like lit a fire in me. And my little sister went to culinary, things along those lines. So I started developing a different relationship with food, and I wanted to learn different like things that went into it and how they become. So long story short, you know, typical Italian food. I like Mexican food. I like, you know, I like everything. If you give it to me and you tell me that you actually took care making it, I will try it, and I will be very excited to try it. I have yet to run into anything that without the right context I don't enjoy.
Okay. Because I noticed you post a lot of like food, like when you're making, you're like, I'm making this tonight, I'm making this. Like that looks fucking good, man.
I like to also dispel people's like thoughts on like, oh, I can't make that. That's too hard. Like, I'm not making beef Wellington over here, but I'll, you know, I don't like it when people, and this is, I'm not gonna judge you. If someone's to be like, oh, dude, I got this bag of Tyson fried chicken, I'm not gonna sit there and be like, fuck you, you piece of shit. How dare you? You might as well just fuck my grandmother. Like, I'm not gonna do that to you, but I am gonna be like, dude, you know, it's really simple for you to like go get a bag of chicken and like, you know, bread it, dredge it, fry it, and have great fried chicken at a quarter of the cost that you just spent on that fried chicken. Like, I like to be, you know, frugal with our finances. We got 3 kids and stuff, so like that's where it all kind of comes into play. Is like, how can I bend this buck to make a fantastic meal that I enjoy and hopefully the kids enjoy as well.
For sure, man. For sure, I completely agree on that. I mean, have you watched Jamie's new show, The You Suck at Cooking?
Yes, dude. Like Jamie lights a fire in my soul so hard because there are things that I want to do, but I don't have time to do. I work a night shift, and like I'll see him put so much effort into production value and to doing all this stuff, and I'm like, dude, Jamie, you piece of shit! How dare you make me feel like this?
Dude, he's got it down.
Dude,
and I love that idea so much that You Suck at Cooking. It works so well.
Yes,
it works so well.
Eventually I hope, like, because I have a pretty okay job and I get paid pretty well. Not to brag or anything, but eventually I'd like to have like I'd like to hire somebody to actually do this work for me, so then I can like concentrate on actually making the content. And I've already spoken to somebody that's going to be my video editor, which is good. So that means like sooner and later I'm gonna actually have like things to contribute to You Suck at Cooking. I have hours of footage that I filmed that's just sitting in my GoPro and my files and stuff like that. That I'm just like, dude, you need to do something with this. Why are you filming it otherwise?
It's hard because like when you film all like literally you have hours and hours and hours, right? So like, and then you have to edit it. That takes almost triple to quadruple the time, depending on how good you are. So if you're not good, you know, like, and I'm assuming you're not good, like I'm not good at editing. It takes me forever to edit anything.
Well, I mean, like I even like got like great editing stuff. Like I have a great program and everything, but it's like, okay, so I get home, I'm tired, I go to bed, I wake up, I want to hang out with my family. I can't hide away in my office. By the way, welcome to my office. I can't hide in my office for a couple hours to do this. I want to see my wife, who I don't get to see that much. I want to see my kids who are growing up before my eyes. I want to go do things with them, which involves me getting more footage. So then like I have this like backlog of shit that I just like, oh, like 'cause once we're done with this today, George, I'm going to go to the lake. I'm going to grab my GoPro. I'm going to go to the lake with the kids. We're going to go swimming for a little bit. It's finally summer in Vermont, and we're going to celebrate being outside.
Nice.
I'm going to get this footage. I'm going to come home, and then I'm going to be like, ooh, you got to go to work in like 3 hours and work a night shift, bro. Do you want to go sit in the office and fucking do that? And then like, I'll be like, no, you don't want to do that, Tom. But then I'll go through everything else I have to do. I'm writing a wedding ceremony. I'm going to be a priest on Tuesday. I'm not one in real life. I play one in the movies. And I'm writing a ceremony for my buddy, and I'm trying to make sure that I involve his fiance with it because I want her to be happy with the ceremony. I don't want to get down with her and be like, wow, why did I pick you to do this? You fucking asshole. Did you really have to say abortion 15 times in the middle of the ceremony? Like, I get it. You're trying to drive home a point, Tom, but that just seemed like the inappropriate time to say it. So I got like a bunch of other shit going on to the point where I'm like, ugh, like I look at Jamie's stuff. I'm like, where do you find the time, bro? Like, where does your time come from?
That's what I want to know. Does he have like a special, like a watch to stop time to do all his magical editing and do and stuff? Where does he find the time to do it?
He's taking those limitless pills that that what's his name took in that movie, and he's boofing them in his asshole. He's just like, hold on,
Cooper.
Yeah, Bradley Cooper's like, hold on, guys. This seems like a really inopportune, but I don't know if you know there's a permeable vein in your asshole in this limitless pill. So much faster when I just jam it right up my ass.
It's like, this says it's supposed to be taken orally. He's like, they're better suppositories.
Listen, have you seen the size of those things? I'm not swallowing at that. What are you, ridiculous? Shove it in my ass.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I know you like to smoke a little bit. Do you like to? What's your like favorite alcoholic beverage when you do decide to drink?
Scotch. Scotch. I'm like I used to love drinking as a kid. And don't drink, kids. You should definitely grow up a little bit before you do stupid shit. But
Yeah.
like, you know, I did what every teenager does. I was like 15, 16, 17, 18. I fucking love drinking on the weekends, whatever the fuck it was. It's like, oh, is that rubbing alcohol? Cool, let's do this. But I got older and it was so weird. And I find that a lot of people, especially in our generation, have the same story. They reach 21 and they just kind of stop caring about it. Like they're like, oh, you know, drinking's great and all, but you know, whatever. And that's kind of how I am. So I got to 21. I didn't go to the bars really. I did all my drinking, like really hard drinking when I was like a kid. So I got to 21. I'm like, man, whatever. But when I went through keto, because there's so much that you're not allowed to enjoy on keto, you have to give up a lot. And weed, as much as I fucking love cannabis, it makes me hungrier than I could fucking do. And in a strict diet like keto, you can't just sit there and just consume everything because you're gonna fuck up your diet, everything you worked on. So I kind of had to go easy on that to kind of like maintain. But I fell in love with Scotch, and I watched this documentary about it. And before like that, I always thought it was just liquor, you know, like I didn't know anything about it other than it was a whiskey derived, you know, made in Scotland, things along those lines. So I watched this documentary and they just spoke so passionately about Scotch and like the flavor notes and what goes into it and how the process is and peat moss and all that stuff. And I was like, whoa, dude, there's so much to this that I had no idea. So I started buying like Johnny Walker. And I started going through different scotches like Ardbeg and things along those lines. And I really fell in love with Scotch. So if you have a good Scotch, I'll drink it.
Nice, man. I do enjoy a nice glass of Scotch. You know, neat or on the rocks.
I see. I see benefits of both. I like neat, just to like make people cringe when they look at me because I'm not sitting there chugging my scotch.
Sip it.
I'll smell it. I'll fucking sip it, and that's excellent. That's like my favorite way to go about it. My mom has always preached this word in German for like that buzz that you get when you start drinking, and like that's what I always try to strive for. I like to keep that continuous buzz when you first start, where you're happy, you're not drunk, and you're like, hey, this is a great time. So I don't chug my booze. But also, if you use water, or because you'll see some people put a splash of water, or they use ice, it actually opens up the scotch a little bit more, and you can get even more pronounced flavors. Because like some things might be hidden by the bitterness or the bite of the liquor itself. So there's great things about it all around.
Nice. I have to try that with a little bit of water. I hear that a lot with the water and the scotch. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to try that.
It's excellent. I once again, like, I don't drink very much, but like I'm going on vacation in a couple weeks, and I will be buying like a nice bottle of like Johnny Walker Gold to bring with me. So then at the end of the night, I can just pour a little bit. I'm like, because go figure, weed's not legal everywhere, George. So if I go somewhere where weed's not legal and they catch me, they're still gonna arrest me. It's cool, man. I'm from Vermont. It's totally legal where I came from. Like, yeah, you crossed the wrong border, bitch.
Now we got you on several counts, including drug trafficking.
Which, like, and like, not to get off on a tangent, but like that is the most confusing thing in the world, because
it really is.
If I was to go somewhere that weed's not legal and I was to go buy weed from somewhere in there, I could understand where that's a problem, right? I'm contributing to what they consider to be a problem.
Yeah.
But if I bring weed somewhere with me and it's in a box, no kids are getting to it, I'm not giving it to people, I'm not smoking with other people, it's just for me personally, I don't see the problem with that. And like, I don't see why that's a problem to you. It's not affecting you, it's not changing anything, like literally. And I didn't like do anything wrong per se, but it's still illegal, which is so mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling, bro. It's like when your mind thoughts are in a bottle and just get shaken up
in a bottle. You say mind bottle? Oh, that's fucking fantastic. Oh, that's fucking great.
I'm smiling so much, my cheek hurts so much for biting. It's just such a problem right now. I'm gonna tear it open. I'm gonna start spitting out blood like I'm Gene Simmons. You'd be like, well, Tom's dying in front of me, but hey, Tom, you mind continuing the story, dick face? I asked you on the show, and you're sitting there bleeding everywhere. What an asshole.
Oh, that's fucking great. I know we just literally discussed a little bit of like your adolescence growing up. You drank a lot and whatnot for that part of your life.
Yeah.
So what else was your life like growing up? Like,
really typical, man. Like I mean, like I'm very fortunate. You know, my dad was an engineer for IBM. My mom was a nurse. So we had money, you know, very, you know, white collar, very, very cool. I grew up in Colchester, Vermont, which is right next to Burlington. Burlington's the Queen City of Vermont. Like if there was a city in Vermont, that's Burlington. That's like the metropolis. That's Gotham. That's everything. Where I live now is the country. Like I could go days without seeing somebody if I wanted to. But like, you know, I did all the normal stuff. I played football, I played baseball, I hung out with my friends. Do you remember the song? The only problem with Vermont, and I'll get to the song in a second, is like it's hard to get out. Like I have lots of friends that got out of Vermont, but generally speaking, if you don't get out at a certain age, you're not going to get out. Do you remember the song "Those Kids Aren't Right" by Offspring?
I love the Offspring, and I love that song.
That's my street where I grew up on. Like that is exactly that. If you did not get out of that street, dude, you weren't leaving that street. And I have plenty of friends, you know, who I still love to this day, but I'm not really friends with anymore. And that's the dirty secret about growing up. They never tell you, is like the people that are so like important to you as a kid, like the people that you see every day, every second you wake up and you see these people, they tell you, you know, hey, your friends are going to change when you get older, but they never really emphasize the fact that you might one day stop talking to these people altogether. Not because they're shitty, not because you don't have time. Like you got to live your own life and you got to do things. And the street that I grew up on was very much the street from Those Kids Aren't Right. Like everybody was, this was the problem, is like this was the time of like Oxycontin and heroin and things along those lines. So like if you weren't a bum because you couldn't get a good job, you basically just hung around the house all day playing video games. If you didn't die from drugs, you know, it was very, very weird growing up. But I had a great street, dude. We had so many kids around. Like it was really excellent way to grow up. Like, you know, it was very cool. I am very fortunate that I got to grow up where I grew up.
Pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. So you said your dad worked for IBM and your mother was a nurse?
Yeah. She go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was gonna ask, how was your relationship with them growing up?
My mom really good. I kind of like butted heads with my dad because he wouldn't let me do things like smoke cigarettes and get drunk and shit. I was like, "What the fuck, you asshole? Let me be me." And he's like, "No, you're gonna do your schoolwork. You're going to do things you're supposed to." I'm like, "Fuck you." My dad was a Marine. And my grandfather was a Marine. I was the only Tom Bruno to not be a Marine. Which wasn't by choice. So I actually got rejected because they don't want pre-existing conditions in the military. They think it's like a problem or whatever. So that was kind of shitty to me. I didn't like that idea. But regardless, like I butted heads with my dad all the time. You know, he was a really hard worker, and it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized how much my dad gave up so we could have the life that we had. So now me and my dad's relationship's fantastic. Like I tell him all the time, like, man, thanks for everything. You know, I really appreciate everything you did to give us the life you did. But at the time, you only have like tunnel vision when you're a kid. You only see what you want to see. And I was like, fuck you, dude. You're never around. Like you're always out of the house. How can you even tell me how to live my life? I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. And so like me and him was a little bit more like touch and go. Eventually, like I remember exactly the day that I started understanding that, which was I was at my grandparents' house. I love my grandfather to death. He was a great guy. His name was Tom Bruno as well. Hey. And I said something about my dad and my pop-up, you know, from Brooklyn, strictly Italian dude, such a great guy. He was like, "You're not gonna talk that way about your father, Thomas." And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, no. He's like, that's not at all. Your dad's a hardworking guy. He brings you on family vacations. He does everything for you. How are you going to sit there and talk badly about him? And I was very snide because like we were still, you know, he might say that, but it doesn't pierce the brain. So I established that I'm going to refer to him as sir from now on. Like that was my way to get back at him. I was like, hey, I can just be like, yes, sir. And I would go about and do that was my fuck you. I'm sure he's like, yeah, all right, I'm getting a little bit of respect from this motherfucker finally. But it was like my fuck you to him. It was like, sir. And now I just call him daddy. I'm like, hey, daddy, what's going on? Shit like that. So yeah, that's how that went.
All right. So sounds like you had like a very, very almost, I want to say normal. A lot of us like kind of rebel and we struggle and butt heads with our fathers usually. I know I did growing up. Yeah. So what was your growing up? What was your relationships like? Just like like actual relationships with women? Did you have like relationships growing up with women?
I did. I established really early in the age that I like chicks. And I went on my first date with a girl who I'm still like wicked good friends with. She's like one of the only girls in this life that I remain friends with, because obviously you get with a girl and you marry this girl and you don't generally, unless you're like some guy that has a really cool relationship with this chick, you don't keep old relationships with girls. But this girl, her name is Caitlin. We always stayed in each other's lives like very, very deeply and stuff, and we care about each other very much, but not in the sense of like, oh, we love each other, but like brother and sister now. Mm-hmm. So my first date was to go see Titanic in the movie theaters. Wow. With my dad behind me. So when the Kate Winslet scene comes up, I'm just like, this is weird. Fucking
word.
Fucking, this is nice tits, right, Dad? He's like, yeah, good job, son.
Here's some.
Yeah. So yeah, I went on, and that was like in 4th grade. And you know, I was a bigger kid growing up. I didn't have an obscene amount of success with chicks, but I had an older sister who had a bunch of girlfriends, friends who were girls. And so I did the younger brother thing, and I dated every single one of her friends just to be like, hey, fuck you. I'm going to go finger bang your friend really quick, and then you guys can go do each other's hair.
Just line up outside.
Dude, it made her so mad for so long, dude. Like, because it'd be like 1 week I'd be with one of her friends, and the next week, like, I did pretty okay for being a big kid, dude. I dated a lot of chicks, and yeah, that's kind of how it went. I was always a hopeless romantic, though. Like, I always wanted to bring them on dates and bring them flowers and shit. And when you're a girl growing up, unless you really know what you want, that's not what you want. You want to be like with a bad boy, or you want to be with a guy that's not going to treat you essentially great. So eventually, like a month or two in, maybe like a year in, they'd be like, you treat me too good. I'm gonna get with that guy that doesn't know my name.
Yeah, there's always something there, right?
Yeah, and then later on in life you meet with these girls again. They're like, oh my god, you were such a good guy. Like, what are you up to right now? I'm like, well, I'm married and I have 3 kids. And like, fuck. Like, yeah,
you missed your chance.
You should have went to Titanic with me, whore. And I run away. She's like, I don't think whore was really needed. I'm like, I said what I meant, and I meant what I said.
That's fucking great. So, how long have you been married now?
God, 10 years.
10 years. All right.
Nice. Fucking. I got with my wife when I was 19. I met her on MySpace.
I remember MySpace.
Yeah, it was between her. I was debating who I was going to get married to. It was either her or Tom from MySpace, and I was like, she's got better tits. I'll get with her. And I will never forget this because she doesn't let me forget. I used a sweet ass line on her. I was like, "You're too hot for Vermont," and she fucking loved that. So fucking, she's like, "Take me now, fat boy," and I was like, "Got it, I got this." So yeah, I met her on MySpace. It was weird because it's like a bittersweet memory because it was the weekend my grandfather died, and I was down in Jersey. That's where most of my family's from, is South Jersey. And I was down there waiting for a funeral, and I was just on MySpace trolling around, and that's where I met Shona. And we got together, we got married like 3 years later. It was a shotgun wedding per se because we were having our first kid. My mom was like, "You need to get married to her, Thomas." And I was like, "Whatever. All right, I guess I will." And yeah, that's how it's been. And you know, we're realistic. We are not like fake Facebook couples. Like we don't lie about things. We don't like everything's perfect in our lives. We're like, dude, we're people, we're individuals. We have struggles and we argue sometimes, and we're both very opinionated. So we're not always going to agree on things, but we love each other tremendously. So we just kind of like hang around with one another. And we like the key is like when you think about whoever you're with, can you picture your life without them? And Shona's been my partner like for so long that I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do this without her. So that's really what it comes down to, is like how important is this person, how intrinsic is this person to your life that you can do it without them, and I couldn't do it with anyone else.
That's beautiful, man. Yeah,
that's beautiful, man.
Oh man, it got real deep right there.
It did, and that's really interesting because I'm so shallow and pedantic. I'm just like, yo, fuck, what's on the surface? That's good enough for me. Cool.
That's good. We're good there.
It's good enough. What do you like? Legos? Cool. You're the Lego guy from now on. I like it. Fuck, what's up, Legos? That was when I was 5. Yeah, whatever. Fuck you. You're still Legos to me.
Oh man,
I'm gonna call you Legolas. Yeah, that was horrible. Anyways.
So you've been married for 10 years. In those 10 years that you've been married, have you had any close calls? So like anything like either like tragic or just anything to do with your relationship or just your parents or anything, any type of close calls?
Like in regards to relationship or just life in general?
Life in general.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple close calls. My wife, her mom got a COVID really bad, like in the beginning of it, and she went into a fucking coma and stuff, and like it was not good. So like it was interesting to think like, man, fucking your parent might be the first one to go out of our parent structure, because usually that's not the way it works. Like, you know, you grow old and then you get to their age and then they start dying off. Unfortunately, it's the way the world works. And yeah, that was a pretty close call. Trying to think here. Like nothing seriously health issue. We've been very fortunate with everything. You know, our kids all have like the little things that are going on. My daughter's got a heart murmur, pretty serious, so that's always scary. You got to be very aware of that. A couple weeks ago, she was like, "Can I have some Monster?" I was like, "No."
No.
Why not? I'm like, "You have a heart murmur, kid." I'm like, "I don't want your heart to explode on me because you had a little heart valve issue." Um, and like, more power to my parents. Back to my parents really quick, which is like a tiny bit of background to me. When I was 16 years old, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is lymph node cancer. And at the time, like, you're a kid, you think you're, you know,
Invincible.
exactly, you're never going to die ever. But if once you grow up and you see how cruel the world can be, you know that's not the case. Kids die all the time. So my parents dealt with the fact that their son, their only son, had a very serious form of cancer, and like, we caught it very early. So I was very, very fortunate. But I went through chemotherapy, I went through radiation, and like in over a year and a half, and I got better. I've been in remission now for 15 plus years. So very, very fortunate. But that being said, it makes me very tuned in to what's going on with them. So if there's anything going on with them, I get very, very worried very, very fast. So yeah, like, I've been very, very fortunate with my kids, and like even the little things we're very on top of. We're like the heart murmur. My son had what's that shit called, what's that where you have like heartburn and stuff? There's like a word.
Flex.
Yes, acid reflux. He had premature acid reflux, which in infants is actually fatal if it's not taken care of. Because what can happen is they'll be sleeping on their back, they'll throw up, and then they'll choke to death on their vomit. So I was working a night job at IBM. Hey, I actually became my dad without knowing I was going to become my dad. And like, I would leave work every night during lunch break, and I would go home and I would turn him on the side and stuff just in case he fucking got sick or anything. And funny story about him is he, like, when I first had Thomas, my second, he did not dig me at all. Like, he was not about dad. He was like all about mom. Always wanted to be on mom. Like, fucking mom's the best. You suck, old man. I'm like, that's really harsh language for a 1-year-old. So I don't know what to say about that. But like, one night he had a serious fever, and my wife was just exhausted. We had 2 kids at the time. We were new parents and stuff, and she's like, "I'm going to bed. You're hanging out with the boy tonight. Like, I can't not get sleep tonight, Tom." And I'm like, "Whatever." And like, I'm like, he's not gonna want to hang out with me. He wants to hang out with you. But like, I stood up with him all night. I was up. I had him in my arms all fucking night. And since that day, me and him have been best buddies. Like, just like, when things happen, he comes to me first. I go to him about everything. I ask him about everything. And we, you know, like, I don't get to sleep in my own bed 90% of the time, because like, he'll wake up, come to my bed, and that's not comfortable, because even though we have California king bed, there's not a lot of space when you shove like 6 fucking people in that goddamn thing. So like, I generally will go sleep on the couch. So if he wakes up, there's enough room for me and him. So yeah, he's my little buddy.
Oh, that's adorable.
Oh, thanks, man. It's not really good for sleeping, but it's terrific for stories.
Yeah.
Well, there's a very fun ending right there. Your
Yeah.
little sleep buddy.
Yeah, he's my which I'm gonna tell him when he gets old enough, when he has a chick in his room. He'll be like, "Dad, get out of bed. You don't want your sleep buddy to come sleep with you?" He's like, "Fuck you." I'm like, "All right, you used to love me. I guess we're past that." All of a sudden he looks at me, he's like, "All right, sir." And I'm like, "Fuck, I know what that means. I did it first, butthead."
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of blasted through a few of these topics here, and we covered most of it. So what I wanted to ask was, I know we're working on my project right now. Do you plan on having any solo projects yourself in the future?
No, because I am horrible at doing stuff that I want to do myself. Like, all the things I want to do, don't like I didn't even want to be a podcaster per se. I got offered to be a podcaster by Alex because we were both admins for this group called the Garmy. We're both big Kevin Smith fans and Hollywood Babylon fans. And I had no interest in being a podcaster. Like, it was not my thing. I love podcasts. I thought they were great. Like, I grew up on VPR and NPR, and my mom listened to them on her way to fucking church and stuff like that on Sundays. And so I really like talk radio. But that being said, I never once was interested in being a podcaster. Alex reached out to me one day. He's like, "Hey, man, I really think you're funny, and I enjoy what you say in the group, blah, blah. Have you ever thought about podcasting?" I was like, "No, not really." He's like, "Well, would you want to try it with me? I have this show. Do you want to join? My partner's leaving. He wants to have a kid." And I was like, "Sure." So I did it. I fell in love with it. I love talking. Like, that's me. I'm a social butterfly. I love to talk, and this just happens to be an extension of that. But that being said, I tried a solo project one time called Band Candy Banter. It was all about Buffy oriented podcasting. We were going through the show systematically and going through the episodes. I got this really cool female co-host from Australia. And like, we got through the first season. I was like, fuck, dude, you don't want to do this. Like, you love talking to your friends, but you're not great at controlling like your own show, editing your own show. So like, the only things I want to do solo wise are things that have nothing to do with podcasting. Like, I'd eventually like to get back into independent filmmaking. I would eventually like to get back into traveling all the time, but these are all things that have nothing to do with it. So solo projects, not really.
Okay. That's cool. That's interesting because you are absolutely phenomenal at what you do here. Just talking, you're so fucking fluid with it, man.
Thanks, buddy. Once again, it really comes from just wanting to be the loudest dude in the room and just trying to carry on a conversation. I hate lulls, and I want to make people laugh constantly. So that being said, it falls in line with podcasting very well, which I'm very fortunate for, because like I see plenty of, if you listen to Tom Bruno on, I got remarried by Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith renewed me and my wife's vows on Hollywood Babylon back in 2016. If you listen to that guy, because I talk a tiny bit on the show, that guy is not me. Like, at all. I am not great in speaking in front of a crowd. Nowadays, like, I'm gonna go do a wedding and shit because I just can't shut up, and I love doing it, but like, it had to develop. So when I hear people struggle on a podcast or they're not really comfortable talking, I'm like, man, that sucks, because it just, once you do it enough, it just comes so easily, and I just love doing it. I love this, and I don't want it to end. So like solo projects, not so much, but definitely I'm gonna keep on doing it until the wheels fall off.
Nice, man.
Thank you for the very nice compliment, by the way. That was very nice of you.
Oh, you're welcome, man. I love everything you guys do over there. You guys fucking so awesome.
Thank you. We try hard. Alex is the never-ending like beacon when it comes to professionalism, and he just really wants to put on a great show. And we happen to hook up with Jamie and Tom, and they're just fantastic at everything they do. They just kill it on a consistent basis. So, and David, thank you for giving us David, by the way. Like, I don't know exactly how that happened. Well, I do. He recited the Raven for me, and I was like, whoa, like, you memorized the Raven? Who the fuck does that? And when we were doing live things, because we do a show every week, Wednesday Night Live, and we were kind of like in a lull for someone to bring on, and David came on, and he was like, dude, this is excellent, I'll do it all the time. And I was like, really? So we kind of like adopted David into USUK as well. So thank you for that, because he's fantastic.
David's the best. He's so fucking funny.
Dude, he's so weird and interesting. It like, you don't meet many people. He's a lot like yourself, dude. He's so interesting that you're like, fuck, dude. If we were not doing this, if I was to meet you in the real world, out in nature or something, I'd be like, I love this guy, and I love David, and I love everybody else, because you all have something going on that makes you very, very interesting.
Oh, thank you. We're weird and unique.
We're the kids in school that you'd be like, fuck that guy, he's gonna wear a trench coat and shoot up a school. No, I just like weird things, man. It's all right. I'm not gonna shoot anyone, but I will shoot you with love.
I will shoot you with love. Oh man. Yeah, this has been super fun, man. I really enjoy this.
So did I, man. I love this show. I love the idea for it. Once again, I love NPR. I love soft spoken shit like this, dude. And the fact that you want to hear people's stories is just, I love that. It's a great show, dude. And I really hope that you go the distance with it, dude. I want to hear other people you bring on because everyone has stories, and that's such a true, but like, you know, antiquated statement, but it's true. Once again, it's true. Everybody has stories, and everybody's stories are interesting no matter what.
Yeah.
It's life.
Yeah, life is an interesting thing, man, because we all are guaranteed the one thing, right? A life, but
Yes.
everyone's life is different. So I mean, yeah, I want to hear it all.
Fucking hell, man.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate this. It was a great time.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being on.
No problem at all.
All right, so do you want to plug in some of your projects?
Absolutely. Hey guys, so I am part of USUK Podcasting Network. You can check out our website, usuknetwork.com, which is powered by weborchard.com. So you should definitely go out there and check out them for a website. They do great work. Pete White's a fantastic dude. On the usuknetwork.com, you can find our amazing shows. What's the difference with me and Alex Whitley? Where a couple of guys from that are transatlantic try to figure each other out, even though we speak the same language. There's a bunch of language barriers, so we try to understand each other. There's Wednesday Night Live, which it comes to you every Wednesday at 7 p.m. UK time. No, that's 8 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. Eastern time, and we just kind of sit down like we're at the bar and just have a chat with one another. It's a great show. There is USUK Chronicles with Jamie Westwood and Tom Stevens, and they're a couple best friends that just want to talk to each other, and they bring on interesting guests. Not too long ago, they had Rab himself from CKY and Jackass fame. And there's some shows coming up, and you can find all these amazing shows and more on usuknetwork.com.
Yeah, man. I'll post all the links for those shows in the description below. Hopefully I don't fuck that up like I fucked up Alex's. So sorry.
He's on Monopoly board. He's already got enough. You don't have to worry about him.
He's already on the Monopoly board. Jesus Christ. Well, I hope you guys really enjoyed listening to That's My Story. I'm your host, George Lugo.
And I'm Tom Bruno, and that's my story.
Thanks for watching That's My Story. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Feedback is very important. See you next time.